On May 3, 2025, Dmitry Medvedev, deputy head of Russia's Security Council and former president, issued a chilling warning to Ukraine. No one can guarantee Kyiv will survive to May 10 if it attacks Moscow during Russia's Sacred Victory Day on May 9. This bold statement, shared on Medvedev's Telegram channel, has darkened the 80th anniversary of the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II, turning a day of remembrance into a potential spark for conflict in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. As Moscow gears up for a grand show of military strength and national pride, the threat of violence grows, driven by accusations and counter-accusations. This article examines the history of Victory Day, its deep meaning for Russians, Russia's plans for 2025, President Vladimir Putin's call for a temporary ceasefire, Ukraine's doubtful response, and the wider impact of Medvedev's words in a tense world. Victory Day, celebrated every May 9 in Russia, marks the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in 1945, ending World War II in Europe. The cost was immense. Over 26 million Soviet people, soldiers and civilians alike, died in what Russians call the Great Patriotic War, 1941, 1945. Germany signed its surrender in Berlin on May 8, 1945, but it was already May 9 in Moscow, making that date a lasting symbol of courage and loss. The war left cities in ruins and families broken, yet it elevated the Soviet Union to a global superpower despite the heavy toll. Named a national holiday in 1965 under leader Leonid Brezhnev, Victory Day grew into a major event under President Vladimir Putin, with the Red Square military parade honoring the past while displaying Russia's modern power. In the past, Victory Day united former Soviet countries, many of which still celebrate it. But Russia's takeover of Crimea in 2014 and invasion of Ukraine in 2022 have split this shared history. Ukraine, which lost millions in the war, moved its commemoration to May 8 in 2022, matching Western Europe's victory in Europe Day and breaking from Moscow's story. This divide shows the growing rift between Russia and Ukraine, now at risk of boiling over during Russia's 2025 events. For Russians, Victory Day is more than a historical event. It's a key part of who they are. It celebrates the defeat of fascism and the strength of a nation that sees its sacrifices as shaping today's world. The Immortal Regiment, started in 2012, brings millions to the streets with photos of relatives who fought or died in the war, making the day a personal tribute. These marches, held in Russia and beyond, connect young and old, keeping the memory of loss and victory alive. Under Putin, Victory Day has become a stage for global politics. The Red Square Parade, watched by millions, shows off Russia's military power and stands firm against what the Kremlin calls Western threats. Russia often compares its World War II victory to a modern fight against neo-Nazism, a term it uses for both past fascism and today's Ukraine, claiming Kyiv supports extreme ideas, a claim Ukraine strongly denies. This story strikes a chord with many Russians, who see their current struggles, like sanctions and the Ukraine war, as echoes of the 1940s fight. In 2025, the 80th anniversary makes the day even more significant. Facing economic pressure and global isolation, Russia uses this milestone to highlight its history and boost support at home. Leaders from China, Serbia, Brazil, and India attending the event show Putin's effort to challenge Western views and maintain Russia's global influence. But the war with Ukraine overshadows the day, making Victory Day a possible battleground for both symbolic and real clashes. Russia began preparing for Victory Day 2,025 months ago, showing how much the event means to the country. Since the 16th of April, Red Square has been closed for parade rehearsals, with over 20,000 security forces, including police and National Guard troops, stationed to prevent Ukrainian drone attacks or sabotage. Central Moscow has traffic limits, and checkpoints watch for trouble, reflecting serious safety concerns. The Red Square Parade will include thousands of soldiers, modern weapons like T-90 tanks and Iskander missiles, and flyovers by Su-57 fighter jets. Fewer vehicles may appear this year, as many are in use in Ukraine. Training started in February at a base near Moscow, with soldiers practicing everything from solo drills to large group marches. On the 24th of April, a big rehearsal saw 30 buses carry troops down Tverskaya Street, with markers set up to guide the parade. Russia invited 19 countries to send representatives, with leaders from China, President Xi Jinping, Serbia, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Brazil, and India agreeing to come. Soldiers from Tajikistan and Azerbaijan will march in the parade, and Vietnam will send 68 troops, showing support for Russia. These moves aim to strengthen Russia's ties with allies at a time when the West has turned away. Across Russia, cultural events will mark the day. The Immortal Regiment expects millions to march with photos of war veterans. Cities will set up walls of memory for people to share stories and pictures of soldiers who died. Concerts, exhibits, and ceremonies at war memorials will focus on gratitude and peace, while fireworks, using shells from places like Vladimir, will light up Moscow and other cities. But in border areas like Kursk and Belgorod, parades are canceled due to safety fears, with smaller indoor events planned instead. This shows how the Ukraine war is affecting even Russia's own land. On the 28th of April, 2025, President Putin announced a 72-hour ceasefire in Ukraine, starting at midnight on May 7-8 and ending at midnight on May 10-11 to honor Victory Day. The Kremlin called it a kind gesture, urging Ukraine to follow suit and warning that any violations would face a strong and effective response. This isn't Russia's first try at a short truce. A 30-hour ceasefire for Easter in April 2025 fell apart, with Ukraine reporting Russian attacks and Russia claiming Ukrainian drone strikes. The ceasefire has several goals: to keep the Red Square Parade peaceful, especially with foreign leaders present, to show Russia as a peace-seeking nation, and to test Ukraine's willingness to talk peace. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov described it as a chance for Ukraine to prove it wants calm, while Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia is open to talks without demands. But Russia's rejection of a U.S. proposed 30-day ceasefire in March, and its insistence that Ukraine give up occupied lands and NATO hopes show Moscow's tough stance on peace. Ukraine quickly rejected the ceasefire. President Volodymyr Zelensky called it a staged act to make Putin's parade look good and ease the worries of guests like China's Xi Jinping. He said a 3-day pause wouldn't lead to real progress and pushed for a 30-day ceasefire instead. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha asked why Russia would wait until May 8 if it truly wanted peace, writing online, "If Russia wants peace, it should stop shooting now," and calling for a long-term, complete truce. Ukrainian leaders view this ceasefire as a publicity stunt, pointing to Russia's past violations. Blogger Anton Gerashchenko reported over 3,000 Russian attacks during the Easter truce, including drones and artillery. Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation warned that short ceasefires without oversight let Russia prepare for new attacks, a pattern seen before. Russia's ongoing fighting in eastern Ukraine, like in Donetsk and Luhansk, adds to Ukraine's doubts. Zelensky raised tensions by saying Ukraine couldn't ensure the safety of foreign leaders at Moscow's parade, stating, "We're not responsible for what happens in Russia." Ukraine's intelligence chief, Kyrylo Budanov, added fuel with a joke that parade guests should bring earplugs for possible explosions. Russia called these comments direct threats, escalating the war of words at a critical time. Medvedev's warning that Kyiv might not last past May 10 if it attacks Moscow has worsened tensions. Shared on Telegram, where he often posts strong words, the statement shows his role as the Kremlin's tough talker, unlike Putin's calmer style. Once seen as a gentle reformer during his presidency, 2008-2012, Medvedev now uses harsh language against Ukraine, the West, and NATO. His warning came after Zelensky's safety remarks and Budanov's quip. Russia's foreign ministry labeled Zelensky's words a worldwide terrorist threat, while Medvedev promised severe consequences. Online, reactions ranged from jokes about Medvedev's fiery style to fears of worse conflict, with one post warning of World War I-II. Experts disagree on how serious the threat is. Some see it as a scare tactic to stop Ukraine and fire up Russian support. Medvedev says things Putin avoids, keeping Russia's options open, says Tatiana Stanovaya, a Carnegie Endowment analyst. Others point to Russia's tight security and history of striking back, suggesting the threat isn't empty. With leaders like Xi Jinping at the parade, any trouble could harm Russia's global ties. Medvedev's words fit the Kremlin's claim that Ukraine is a neo-Nazi state, which Kyiv denies. He recently called for wiping out Kyiv's neo-Nazi leaders and said Europe needs cleansing. This talk makes peace harder, especially as U.S. President Donald Trump tries to broker a deal. The world's response to Medvedev's warning and Victory Day tensions is cautious. Allies like China, Belarus, and India plan to attend the parade, showing support for Russia but staying quiet on Medvedev's words to avoid trouble. Vietnam's 68 soldiers at the event focus on history, not politics. Western countries, like the US, NATO, and the EU, haven't commented on Medvedev's threat, instead aiding Ukraine. A new $310 million US aid package, including F-16 training, shows strong support. NATO's Jens Stoltenberg repeated that Ukraine can join the alliance, upsetting Russia. Western media call Medvedev's warning a mind game, but say any Ukrainian move on May 9 could lead to a big Russian reaction. Online, opinions split. Some mock Medvedev as all talk, while others worry about war, especially after Ukraine's recent drone attack on Russia's Novorossiysk port on May 3, proving Kyiv can strike far. A small incident on Victory Day could lead Russia to hit Kyiv hard, and with foreign leaders present, it might cause diplomatic chaos or pull in other countries. Russia's Victory Day, meant to honor past heroes, now reflects the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The 80th anniversary, with its big parade and world guests, shows Russia's pride and goals. But Medvedev's warning and the ceasefire fight reveal deep distrust. A day meant for peace could start a fight. As May 9 nears, the world watches nervously. The US and UN must push for a real, monitored ceasefire to avoid trouble and let Victory Day be about winning over hate, not starting new battles.